All right, welcome. If you're deep in A-level macroeconomics revision, you know that multiple choice paper can be, well, a bit of a nightmare. But what if I told you those super tricky questions could actually be your secret weapon for revision? Today, that's exactly what we're going to show you.
Yeah, does this look familiar? Just staring at pages and pages of multiple choice questions, trying to drag every single definition out of your textbook? It's so overwhelming, right? And it feels like every single one is designed to catch you out.
But you know what? There is a much better way. Instead of just trying to memorize the textbook cover to cover, we're going to use real past paper questions to actually unlock the concepts. We're going to break down a method that'll help you tackle them with logic, with confidence. Okay, let's dive in. All right, we're going to kick things off with a real classic, a topic that you're pretty much guaranteed to see in every exam: inflation. So here's a pretty typical data-based question you might see. Now, it looks simple enough, but it's testing something really specific. It wants to know, do you actually get what the consumer price index is, or are you just, looking at the numbers and guessing? Okay, so the most important thing to remember here is that the CPI tracks the change in prices. That's the rate of inflation. A positive percentage, and it doesn't matter how small, means that on average, prices are going up. The cost of living is rising. So let's break this down together. Take another look at that data. The inflation rate is positive every single year. That's the key. It means we can immediately throw out any option that says prices fell or stayed the same. It's just not possible. Prices were always going up. Yeah, they rose a bit slower in 2016, but they were still rising. And because they increased every year, it just makes sense that the overall price level had to be at its absolute highest in the final year, 2018. And this is such a perfect example of a classic exam trap. You have to remember not to mix up the rate of inflation with the overall price level. A lower rate, like that 1.5%, doesn't mean prices are falling. Nope, it just means they're going up a little less quickly than before. Okay, let's move on. Our next topic is the balance of payments. Now, these questions often have a bunch of numbers, but as you're about to see, the logic is just as important as the math. Okay, here we go. A table full of figures, and it's asking for the current account balance. I know this can look pretty intimidating, but honestly, it's just a test to see if you remember one simple formula. So first things first, what even is the current account? Well, it's just made up of 4 key parts. You've got the trade in goods, the trade in services, primary income, and secondary income. That's it. That's the whole list. And once you know that formula, the question pretty much answers itself. We literally just take the numbers they gave us and add them up. So we've got minus 30, plus 15, plus 7, and minus 10, which gives us a final current account deficit of $18 billion. Simple as that. So the golden rule here is super simple. Just memorize those 4 components of the current account. Seriously, once you've got them locked in, these questions go from being a tricky puzzle to just a little bit of basic arithmetic. All right, for our last example, let's get into exchange rates. These questions are all about understanding that chain of events, the knock-on effects that a single change can set off across the entire economy. This is a classic theory question. It's asking you to trace the logical steps. What happens when a currency gets stronger or appreciates? There's a really clear chain of reasoning here that you need to follow. Okay, before we just jump to the answer, let's quickly map out the theory. So an appreciation means the currency is stronger, right? This makes your exports more expensive for other countries to buy, and it makes imports cheaper for you. A weaker currency, or a depreciation, does the exact opposite. Okay, now let's apply that logic to the question. If the ringgit appreciates, Malaysian exports become more expensive. That's probably going to hurt the trade balance and could even affect employment. So right away, options A and D are looking unlikely. Now, if imports are cheaper, you'd expect the volume of imports to go up, not down. So C is out too. The real answer, the one they're looking for, is in a secondary effect. Think about it. A lot of imports are actually raw materials for businesses. If those get cheaper, production costs go down, and that helps reduce the pressure of cost-push inflation. And that's the crucial lesson here. You have to think one step beyond the obvious. Don't just stop at exports get more expensive, imports get cheaper. You have to ask, okay, but what are those imports, and what's the knock-on effect for the rest of the economy? So we've just looked at 3 totally different questions, one on inflation, one on the balance of payments, and one on exchange rates. But what's the common thread? Well, we've basically built a simple, repeatable strategy that you can use for pretty much any multiple choice question.
And here it is, your 4-step economic toolkit. First, identify the core economic idea they're testing you on. Second, define it in your head, just a simple definition. Third, eliminate. Go through the wrong answers, the distractors, and argue against them one by one. And finally, number 4, confirm the logic for the right answer. Make sure it all adds up. See, this method forces you to think clearly and helps you sidestep all those common traps.
By using these past paper questions as your guide, you're not just cramming facts for an exam. You're actually learning how to apply economic principles. You're learning to think like an economist. So what's the next economic puzzle in the world around you that you're going to solve?